Okay. Good morning, everybody. Say good morning, afternoon, good evening. I'm trying to get my camera. There we go. I guess. Of my. Okay. So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Since who knows where you are or when you are. I got my bunny ears on. Easter's this weekend. I do that too, so I don't talk too much, Balo. Sometimes I'll play my video games so I don't, overwhelm the conversation. Yeah. What game are you playing? If I can ask. I know you're a pretty good gamer. I play Guild Wars too. That's all I play. Well, when you have kids, um, Easter, you have their Easter. I used to go to church and all that, and um, make Easter dresses and dress up your boys and go Easter egg hunting and all that sort of thing. And fond memories, really. I remember one year we colored eggs out front, and because somebody that I knew wanted to help me do that, and it's a lot less messy if you do it out in the front yard on a table with newspaper. Because you let kids do their own thing, that way they learn and you don't hinder their learning. They make a mess. That's just the way kids are. They just, they make messes. Nothing can be done. That's the way it is. And I may take this thing off because it's kind of giving me a headache, but I'll have it on for a few minutes. They make them for kids, obviously. I'm just a grown kid, right? David will be back in a minute. We're going to be talking about some more dreams, but a little bit, focused a little more on UFO kind of things, and discussing what these dreams might mean and what they could be representing, what UFOs that we see. Hopefully some people have some stories. I have a few. What these UFOs we see, if they're all from the same source or if they're all, what's going on? Are they really extraterrestrial? Are they intraterrestrial or from another dimension? And things like this. Because you'll have people that come and say, well, I've had this experience and I know there are other beings, but you really can't, I don't know if you can really tell where they're from. And, some of them say, well, they're definitely from outer space. And I think the tendency is now to think of them as from other dimension instead of outer space. So, who knows? I just know, I just know that it's a big question. It's not a question of what people are experiencing. They're experiencing something. They're not lying. They're experiencing some strange things. So, to say that they're all crazy is a pretty big cop-out, really. Not something you should do. Because there's something going on, definitely. I'd never say someone's lying. And I got to take my ears off in a minute because it's starting to give me a headache. It's like my hair is on too tight. But I I play Guild Wars too, and there's lots of monsters in there of various kinds. And it's interesting to see how they've drawn from mythology and cryptozoology and all kinds of things like that to create their creatures and their stories. Um, Dragons are usually the big bad guy in this game, but there are good dragons too. And getting people to work together to fight a common evil is basically the theme of the game. That's why there's guilds. Um, and I'm playing Words with Friends now with my daughter and my son, and possibly add a friend too. That's kind of fun to do that. Anyway, but I did print out some dreams that I had written down back in, wow, 2005. Some were written down right after they happened. Some was one that was so vivid that I remembered. Yeah, I may have to take it off. It's starting to make my head hurt, Data. Yeah, Baylor was playing some crap mobile game, he says. I hope Baylor's feeling better. He was ill. I know MA had a cold, and then Scott had a toothache, and it's like, man, you know, I don't like it when people I know are not feeling well. I hope everyone else is going to be okay and is okay. It's a beautiful spring day today. But I was saying that we're going to be talking about some UFO dreams and UFOs, what they are, what we used to think they were, how accurate we are, and what exactly is going on. Yeah, he said he won't be talking much, so he's playing video games. Anyway, so I was saying I play Guild Wars too, and he didn't even want to say what he was playing. So let me ask you, Data, have you seen a UFO? Have you ever seen one? I really. Would you share what you experienced? Could you? If you don't want to tell me publicly, you can email it to me. um, I I saw UFO back in 1984. I was taking an evening. Yeah, yeah. So gadget man, you've had some. Okay, yeah. I think most of the Mandela affected community has had some interesting interactions with whatever they are. Oh my gosh, an orb following. Oh, sheesh, red sphere. Could you tell how big it was that was following you? I mean, it's awfully hard to tell size. I know that, how far away it is because they're so, I don't know exactly. It's really difficult because they're so quiet. Um, that back in '84, I was taking a walk with my then fiance, my first husband's, and I had gotten separated from him for a moment, and it was near Sacramento City College. Yeah, tell me stories, man. I'd like to hear them. But anyway, you know, I hate it when people say you're seeing things. We're having experiences. We may not know what they are, but we're having them. We're not imagining them. I mean, I think that's really an insult when they say you're seeing things. hallucinations aren't that common. Not really. They're not. I mean, and if you have one with another person who sees it, I mean, a shared delusion or hallucination is even rarer, if at all possible. Yeah. Um, but anyway, I got separated from him for a moment, and I was sitting there looking, and I kind of felt strange. It's like everything kind of got quiet. And I looked up and I saw three rounded triangular things flying above me that were like black, but they were like glowing purple. And they zoomed right over me. And I felt like a suspended time feeling. And I got interviewed by someone from MUFON, and you know, you answer their questions best they can, and then they record it as to where it was seen. And I looked on their site later, and in that cluster of years in the 80s, mid 80s, the triangular shaped crafts that looked like what I saw were very, very common all over the United States. So that was kind of bizarre. That was strange. And there's a lot of people that say, "Oh, they're something being made by us." And I said, "Well, that's possible." But there's also a possibility that we got that technology from interdimensional beings or something like that, because sometimes we take leaps in technology that seem a little faster than what I would consider the usual way. So, what are we to think about these things now? I'm not going to question or seeing them. I know Bluebeard has had what he calls abductions. Hi, Scott. We're talking about UFOs. Have you ever seen a UFO, Scott? I know you have. I know you have. You've seen quite a few, haven't you? I know Gadget Man's seen a lot. Data has seen bunches. I used to see them other than the triangular craft that I saw. Well, they were in a formation of three, and they were silent. Yeah, TR8 is it TRB3 aircraft? But they didn't look. There was nothing, no lights on them, nothing. It's just like maybe they were cloaked. I don't know. It was bizarre. Is your tooth any better, Scott? Are you still miserable? I know that my brothers saw a fireball in the sky that went over Table Mountain in Orville area. This was probably late 60s, early 70s. TR3B. I can't tell. The font they use really sucks, pardon my French. I have a picture of a friend in Sedona, my friend Bushy. He's a master gardener. That shows him standing among some scrub, and behind him there's a metallic UFO. It looks like the classic UFO. And he says, I said, "There's a UFO in that picture." He says, "Oh, we had a lot that year, that summer." And there's lots of bases and stuff in New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada. So the fact that we're seeing them and so many of them is kind of indicative, I think, that our government's involved in some way. I am so sorry, Scott. I'm so sorry. I hope you feel better soon. But anyway, I think sometimes, like with some people, they'll have these experiences in their dream state where they see UFOs and aliens, things like this, whether they're being abducted or whether it's an out of body, whether it's just communication to the mind, whether it's a memory of being somewhere else in some other time. Possibly, soul shard, a piece of your soul that's somewhere else. They talk about soul retrieval because you leave pieces of yourself into the past and future. And I often wondered if our shifting through timelines is gathering up our soul pieces, our pieces of ourselves that we've left behind or that we need to gather up to become complete again. I don't know. Anyway, so let's get to the meat of it. Um, okay, let's see. Okay, now here's one. It's a dream I had when I was a teenager. Um, I felt that I had woken up from a dream. Okay, that was like I was a dream within a dream thing. I'm not trying to sound like Shakespeare or something, um, but it was so real that I had woken up, had gone to the front yard, and we had a really nice lawn. Um, it was nippy. It was rather cold out. The moonlight was very bright. The grass was wet. I could feel the wetness and the coldness of the grass and smell the moisture. You know how that smell of the evening moisture in the garden. It's kind of that smell. And the moon was out. The stars were sparkling very brightly. I haven't seen a night like that in so many years, where you can see the stars so clearly. Suddenly, the defining shadows disappeared. I don't know any other way to put it. I felt a presence and I hid because I was frightened. Above me, filling almost the entire sky above me, was a huge spacecraft is what I put then, because those days that's all we thought. We thought they were all ETs. There was no sound. That's almost always the case. No sound. It was long, huge rectangle with the corners cut off. The body of the craft was dark, almost black and dull. The entire surface was covered with lights as if they were uncurtained windows. It must have been enormous, a city of the skies. It hovered above me. I knew they were searching for me, and I was terrified. It finally moved on, and I felt safe. It was then that I woke from the dream itself. I sat in my bed trembling. It had been so real. The fear remained, and to this day I wondered, and to this day it is as vivid as it was back then. I wrote that in 2005, so I remember that dream so vividly even today. It's the difference between dreams and visions and lucid dreams. And I don't know if this is a vision or a lucid dream, or it felt out of body almost. It was, oh, come on, don't tease him about his bald head. Oh, you guys are crazy. That's why I love you. There's a second dream. Now, these are little. Now, I know the difference between anxiety dreams and dreams that are not. Anxiety dreams are very broken, and they're just like, your brain's trying to work out stress and other challenges and things like that. And they're not rather disjointed, but these were not disjointed, and they stuck with me, these dreams. And I did conscious action in the dreams. It's just very different. They're not the same as usual. That first one was when I was a teenager, as I said. This last one was like in the early 2000s. I was sitting next to a blonde young man in what looked like a 1950s car. We were driving on a small road during a very dark night. It appeared he wanted me alone for some reason. Innocent look, LOL, I wrote. We were in the country, cornfields on each side of the road, shades of X-Files movie, I guess, but we were out in the country. I remember the sharp outlines of the green leaves illumined by the headlights. That's not a detail you usually remember in a dream. That's just a dream. The night air indicated it was a summer night. He stops the car and we get out. I see lights above us, someone trying to find us. Maybe we're Bonnie and Clyde, I don't know. I run into the cornfield and he follows me. But he's suddenly gone. The cornfields are like a maze. You can't see anywhere once you're in them if they're tall. This too is very vivid. It's very brief though. I remember staying hidden in the field for some time. There was a sense of terror in the dream, but not one of surprise. I recall trying to get my boyfriend or whoever he was to hide quicker, as if I knew what was going to happen. I felt a great relief that I was not seen. Now you could say that I need to see a shrink. Well, I've seen one, so they didn't think anything of it. Now the third dream is really bizarre. I'm in a community where there are many buildings, and I do not feel that I'm on Earth. It's not Earth. It's my home, but it's not Earth. But I also say perhaps another time or era, but it doesn't feel like a familiar place. I'm hiding in a small building. I see men or aliens come. They don't look like us, whoever they are. They are searching for people. They're searching for us. I see some kind of airborne ship or vehicle. They find other people and take them, like being arrested or something. Taken into custody, I guess. I hide in some dark place and they miss seeing me. I am quite upset and I'm able to escape unseen to safety. I believe there's another person with me, but I don't remember. And the funniest part of this dream, it could be this frustration or anxiety, whatever, but I see a river where there's boats on it as I gaze out a window, and the river has a waterfall at one end, and as I gaze at it, I notice how really strange it looks. I know the color isn't right for one thing, but the water's flowing up the waterfall instead of down, like I'm in a Dr. Seuss dream or something. So, be that as it may, those were standout dreams that I still remember. There was a funny thing that happened right here where I live. We had an orange and white male cat named Rascal, and he was a real smart cat. And this is a story about him, kind of. And it's also strange. The cool evening air felt like any other evening. It was summer, I do believe, early summer or late spring. Food was left out for the cats, and all our cats had come to eat. We took in a lot of strays, rescues, and we had maybe three cats. And they all came in to eat. We fed them pretty consistently, same time of day. They came all in to eat. All of them came in except one. And it was Rascal that was not home. And that was very uncharacteristic of him, not to be home. My daughter and I were about to retire for the night. Every evening, our large orange and white short-haired cat would come to the door and request entrance. He was a cat of certain habits. Yeah, I don't know what we're hiding from, Data, but I think that we feel the real fear, don't we, in those dreams? And I didn't have anything going after me in real life that way, really. So, I don't know the origin, if it's a memory or what, or if it's something happening on another plane where we're going to while we sleep. I know somebody says I kill monsters in my astral form. I said, well, yeah, I can see that. I'm a hero. Anyway, without fail, that cat would be at that door. The appointed time came and went, and my daughter becomes concerned. Where's Rascal? Is he in the garage or something? I don't know. Have you looked for him? I say. I wrote this right down after it happened. We started walking around the house. We walked around the whole house, checked the backyard, all over the place. We were calling his name the entire time we searched, and he came when he was called. An entire hour passed, and no Rascal. Now, he's our favorite cat, so we were concerned because was a lovely, lovely cat. Huge cat who loves lasagna and drinking out of glass. He loves to drink out of your water glass. I guess he sees it as a challenge. I've always loved his greenish yellow eyes. Beautiful cat. It always looked like he was looking at you saying, I know a secret you don't. And the cats look at us that way. I always call him my best friend, guardian of my home, and top mouser. He was a wonderful ratter. He'd get the rats and mice. We never have rodentia problems, which is one reason I have cats. I don't like rodents running around my house unless they're pet ones. He would shut his eyes halfway, and you are privileged to know me, and you are welcome. Reminds me of somebody. Sometimes he didn't act like a cat at all, Sometimes, I don't know, what can you say? Strange thing. We searched inside the house too, not just outside. Just in case he was hiding under the table or sleeping under a bed or whatever. My daughter was 17 and she was getting worried. The curtains in the back of the house were open, and she just went to bed. She just said, that's it. But I was in the hallway with my youngest son. Well, not my younger son, not my youngest. And we can see my bedroom and my bedroom window, which is quite large, had curtains open. And something really strange happened. I gazed out the back window along with my son, and we saw it light up like bright noonday. It lit up so brightly that it was whitewashed. You couldn't see details. There were no shadows. It was just, you could barely see the leaves of trees and whatnot. They were so white. It was a white light unlike anything I've ever seen, ever. And the light didn't move. It wasn't moving, as far as I could tell. It was very odd. No sound. I figured it was a search helicopter during the rounds, but then I thought, well, it would be moving and it wouldn't be that bright. I mean, they wouldn't want it so bright that you couldn't see detail. That wouldn't be logical. You want it bright enough to be able to see movement, but I mean, this was so bright, it was blindingly bright. I rushed to the front of the house and there was nothing above the house. No helicopter, no sound. Absolutely silent, except for the roar of the freeway nearby. My daughter and my son came out to see what I was up to. A few moments later, Rascal comes sauntering out of the backyard. Like nothing happened. I told the story of the light to my daughter, and she scowled at me suspiciously until my son piped up and supported the whole story with his version. You tell me, what was that? Sometimes I think he went for a ride on a UFO. So I wrote some stories about Rascal being the captain of a starship, because that's, I figured that's what he was out there flying around. Who knows? Anyway, so what do you think these UFOs are? We've heard that they're American or human craft using advanced technology that we got from who knows where. I've heard interdimensional. I've heard people say that they're inside the earth in another realm. I think we need to think about interdimensionality a little more, because it's kind of explains how things pop in and pop out so easily. If they can go from one dimension to another, it would explain how they can be there 1 second and gone the next. Same with some of the cryptids as well. Because it doesn't make sense why things can disappear and reappear. And you could think, well, maybe cloaking, but, what if they're traveling to, getting out of the way and going somewhere else? Pterodactyls. Have you heard about the stories of people seeing pterodactyls, pterodactyl-like flying creatures? You mentioned that. Well, you think you have a dream about people who became hiding from pterodactyls from people who became insane and violent, like a huge proportion of the population. Yeah. Well, the Native Americans have believed in what they call the Thunderbird. I mean, the condor's huge bird. Maybe they're thinking of that, but maybe they're not. Maybe they're thinking of something way, way bigger than that. Bluebeard, yeah. He's in the hospital right now. Send him your good thoughts, because the poor guy's been going through some miserable stuff, and surgeries and whatnot. Really, you heard that sound? Yeah, I know people hear. Sometimes you can hear them instead of see them because of their. Thunderbirds. There were Thunderbirds in California before the December shift. What kind of Thunderbirds were they? I mean, how big were they supposed to be? Because the condor, I can look it up. There's the Andean condor, and then there's the California condor. There it is. Wow. You had something screech by your window? Oh my gosh. Ayla, that sounds so scary. Yeah, I think Gadget Man. I think the pterodactyls are, someday they're going to have enough people see them at once that they're going to stop telling people they're lying. Oh, yeah, that's the California condor that they were. They didn't call them thunderbirds. They had to because of DDT. They were almost eradicated. We're using DDT as a pesticide, and it would make their shells really thin so that babies wouldn't survive. So they had to have a breeding program. And let's see what they say. It's the largest bird in North America. But I know that people have seen pterodactyls. There's even people have seen the little raptor kind of dinosaurs running through fields. And my phone decided to poot out on me. Oh, you stupid thing. Having trouble. I'll have to look on here. Let me look. It won't let me. Sheesh. Maybe my Kindle will help me. My phone's been giving me trouble. I've done a factory reboot and everything. It doesn't seem to want to be. Excuse me. My son lives in Canada. They have a big owl that's near their house. And they have to keep an eye on their dogs, because that owl can lift up a dog. So if you think something bigger, I've heard of children being abducted by big birds. This has been documented in the past. That's interesting. I don't question you, Data, because where we're all from is who knows what. The big shift in December was very interesting. Okay. I remember that I don't know if they've been faked or what of a pterodactyl having been killed, and if hunters showed a picture. And I mean, we get to the point. It says they have an average of a 10-foot wingspan. So what you're talking about is considerably larger than a condor. So that would be. Yeah, Howard Stern, we look like what we look like. Let's not put each other down for our looks. I certainly am not going to win any prizes. Yeah, I mean, so more like an ostrich. So when you think about UFOs and cryptids and stuff, there seems to be some kind of connection, because they see UFOs a lot around times when Bigfoot is sighted. And there was even a story of someone seeing Bigfoot coming out of a UFO in the middle of Tennessee or somewhere. It's like, it's awfully hard to know what's real information, what isn't. 16 feet is a pretty big wingspan. That's huge. Just as wide as my room here, close to 20 feet, It's like, that's one big bird. But I mean, I think that there's some connection between UFO activity and cryptid sightings and things like that. And I don't know exactly what's going on. I mean, I'm not not that psychic. I'm just strange. Oh my gosh, Chewbacca. Oh. Mm. Well, he does kind of look like Bigfoot, doesn't he? Little alien on the shoulder of a dog man. I listen to Dark Waters, and he has a lot of dogman stories. And believe me, I wouldn't be worried too much about seeing Bigfoot because they seem to be intelligent, and their main purpose is not to kill humans, but dogmen. I don't want to run into one of those, and there's theories that they're a genetic experiment to make a super soldier by the government. It's like, no, don't want to run into them. And then some natives would call them skinwalkers sometimes, and then you have all the other interesting. We'll do a thing on cryptids sometime. Yeah. I think it's a big mistake just because we don't understand something that we think they're stupid. Um, Man is very arrogant. We look at our pets and we think that they're dumber than us, and I'm thinking, well, maybe in some ways, but I think in other ways they're way smarter than we are. I think we need to be a little less arrogant, a little more open-minded. Oh, thanks. I'll have to look at that later. But, I know that we've been having some interesting dreams. I had a dream today, or last night, I guess, where I'm in an alternate reality again, only this time it's me having moved to another reality, being aware that I'm from another reality, and I'm the person they think is their mother, but I'm not. And I'm trying to explain to them that I'm not the same person, that where I'm from, and that I'll be going back and you'll get your mother back, but I'm not her. That was bizarre. That was bizarre. Oh wow, I will have to watch that. I will have to watch that. Alien moves its mouth and everything. Oh. Well, we have to be careful about what we watch, but I mean, sometimes you just think, wow, how could they do that? That's why it's so hard. We could have real stuff being videoed and shown, and people just write it off as CGI, and when it's actual, genuine, and it's kind of part of the misinformation. I mean, it was the government's plan anytime anyone saw anything to make them look stupid and silly and basically to ruin their reputation. So they would have a big part in defaming people so that nobody would believe them. And so, I can understand people not wanting to come out and say what they've seen because they know they're going to get all this stuff about, oh, you're crazy. And there even be people that are probably are paid to make you look like an idiot, make you look like you're lying. So it's really hard because of what they've done to find out the truth. Yeah, I mean, this was very real to me. This gadget, man, this was real. I mean, it was like I was actually with different people trying to influence them from this by visiting them and talking to them, trying to get them to change things that they're doing, to reconsider their belief systems, because they're still my family, even though they're in another dimension. Still felt a responsibility to try to contact them and to help them to break out of their their dream, their programming, basically. I was there to try to break them from their programming. So I don't know exactly what that means, except that maybe I traveled while I was sleeping, trying to get through to the children that were my other dimensions children, to get them to wake up from the dream, from the programming, to break free from the cycle that keeps going round and round, the karmic cycle. I think that's the Buddhists talk about that, going around and round, and that to break out of it takes a special kind of mindset and belief system and quality of your spirit. To break out of it, you have to realize what's going on. Yeah, Gadget Man, you should write down some of those because they sound absolutely fascinating dreams. And they might have little nuggets of information in them that could be really helpful to you personally and perhaps to the rest of us as well. My garden, by the way, we've had like a few shifts pretty close together recently. Everybody's sleep patterns all wonky and crazy, and I last 2 nights before last night I slept like 10, 12 hours, which is unheard of. I was just so exhausted from not sleeping for so many days very well. And the garden, I planted like we planted mostly plants, but I also planted some radishes. I planted the Korean small white radish and the watermelon radish, and I planted beets and chard. And it was right about the time, right before the shifting. And darned if those things weren't up in 3 days or less. I mean, I was so surprised. I said, the nights aren't that warm yet. And maybe that's normal, but they never used to come up that quickly. But maybe in this reality they do. Excuse me. But the garden's just growing like crazy. And, but I noticed a lot of things we have in common with the shifting. We'll have body pain, we'll have headaches, we'll have sleeping trouble, trouble in the neck and shoulders. And as our spirit is adjusting to a slightly different body, I think. Sleep trouble's the biggie. I think a lot of us have that. It was just like, can I just sleep? Please, just normal. Go to sleep at a certain time, get up at a certain time consistently. And there's just nothing I can do to make my body do that. I'm trying. I am starting to read before bed. That seems to help. But it's the strangest thing. It's like, a lot of people think the world is changing. And I said, no, the world isn't changing. The world we were in is still the same. We've just come to a different world. And I know that sounds insane. Sounds absolutely insane. I'm not surprised. My children, I was talking about, I'm not that strong. She says, "Oh yeah, Mom, you are a little, because I do all kinds of strange stuff. I meditate and I do Reiki and I have a collection of tarot cards, angel cards, and stuff like that, and have my rocks. I'm just a hippie, and I've never had any trouble with negative things either. So, because I protect my property and myself. But there'll be some people that think that that's dabbling in dangerous things. It's like, I've never had a trouble with it. But I always say too that if it makes you uncomfortable to do it, don't do it. Don't do it. Whatever you don't want to do, just don't do it. Don't do something you don't want to do. I don't know if we're suffering from radiation exposure, transported like on a craft. Maybe like on Star Trek, we're just, our molecules are dissociated and sent somewhere else, or our spirit energy is sent somewhere else through abnormal scrambling us up, causing the problems. I don't know. Nobody knows. And so when someone comes on a stream or a video and they have it all figured out, this is what's going on, I'm just going, how would you know what's going on? I mean, I have a 2-year degree in mathematics, science, and engineering, and a 2-year degree in occupational therapy assistant. And, I'm not brilliant, but I mean, I don't know what's going on. I know that some of the scientists are saying we're in a simulated reality, but it's like, what are we, a virus that doesn't seem to get the downloads? They keep on trying to treat us like we're malware and get rid of us. And each time they do, we shift over to another timeline. You can't catch us. We're going. Bye. I don't know. We're a virus. We're malware. Somehow there's something different about us. We don't stay in one place. We don't get the downloads, as they call them. I've noticed, before I knew about the Mandela effect, I'd noticed people's behavior being strange, really odd. And their personalities would change. And I didn't know what was going on. I was just very confused. Why is this person not like me all of a sudden? Or why does this person like me that didn't like me all of a sudden? That's even more disturbing. I'm just like, what? It was like, I'm just like, not so sure if I can believe you. And then having someone who was just really liked you all of a sudden be angry at you. I'm just going, the world's gone mad, or have I? I have to assure you, my children still love me, even though I'm a little woo-woo. That's just you, Mom. I said, they don't like to think about the strange things that I've experienced. They just think I'm a little odd. Oh well. I'm in the process of making a couple of videos. One video is going to be a little easier and shorter. Bubbles sent me some pictures of water that I want to do one on water sort of thing. And I want to do one on something else. And this last few shiftings, I've been working in the garden and lazy on the in-between days. So, plus my daughter's in Southern Cal and I have to go feed her cats or check on her cat. She has an auto feeder, but have to play with her kitten because he gets rambunctious. But now, Data, you think we're being somehow transported by some intelligent beings, perhaps. That's just as viable a theory as mine. I mean, that maybe we're just in a system that is all about vibration and electricity and technology, and that we're, for all I know, we're artificial intelligences, or all the NPCs around us are artificial intelligences. Yeah, I mean, like I said, we don't know. We have no idea. And I think the more we brainstorm and have ideas, the more interesting it is. And no idea should be thrown out the window completely, because I think there's some truth in a lot of things. And maybe together we can kind of get closer to what we're experiencing. Because I know that people see this as the end days, the end times, and I won't disagree with them. I won't say that. I think you have to read scriptures and stuff with a different point of view and see what they're trying to say. I know Nostradamus also has some interesting things to say, and I'm not saying that's necessarily all true, but I think you might find things that seem conspicuously resonating with you. So, are we being tested? I don't know. I think everything's always a test. I think that everything we go through is always a test of some kind. Um, I would hate to think this is a simulated reality, but then I think, well, maybe it always was. Maybe that's what it is when you are in spirit and you go down to experience a physical reality. It's always a simulated reality. And that spirit is the real world. So perhaps that's what's going on, that this has always been, a simulated place for us to learn how to refine our spirit to being more enlightened and higher vibration. So, I mean, maybe it's an old idea rather than a new one. And this is how it was done. Do I believe that this is being done to punish us? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, I just hope not. Because I don't remember doing anything that bad that I would have to go through all this all the time. No, I don't know if we're here to help people and we keep trying to tell them what's going on and they keep ignoring us. And when they keep ignoring us, we shift to another place and try again to convince people, to wake them up. I don't know. I don't know if I know there are people that haven't realized what's going on. And perhaps they're suffering because of it. And that we're here to help them not to suffer so much, just to realize that there are other people that are experiencing this and that they're not crazy. Yeah, I don't know. And my son's watching something that's making him laugh. I think we need to remember to be patient with ourselves because it's not easy going through what we're going through. I know that it took me almost a year to come to terms with it. And I'm just now starting to explore it and investigate. And it's, I have to look at the interesting part of it, that it's big. It's like the ultimate question, the biggest curiosity that there can be. Yeah, you have to find some kind of meaning in your life so that you can cope with it, really. And it took me like a year to figure out. It just threw me so badly. Just threw me so badly. I was like worthless for a year, seriously. And I don't bounce quite as quickly as some people do. But I'm starting to embrace the mystery of it all, and that's interesting to me. So the mystery is interesting, and I'm trying to enjoy the journey, regardless of how hard it is sometimes. So, I hope, Bela, that you do that channel sometime, because that sounded pretty funny what you were thinking of doing. Kind of rude but funny. And we need to laugh. We need to find something to laugh at. We really do. And we have to have that comfort of our friends and our pets and things like that. Try to do some of the things we love to do. I went to my rheumatologist, and she says that, barring a few tests, she says I'm diagnosed with fibromyalgia. I told her my health history. She says, oh yeah, that's exactly how it usually goes. And so I'm pretty sure, 95% sure I have that. And I'm thinking, well, usually it's triggered by a trauma. And so many of us that are Mandela affected have some kind of fibro kind of pain. Because it's only 2 to 3% of the population, yet people I talk to on here I'd say 40% of the people I talk to have fibro or something that sounds very much like it. And that's way above. Now, whether the confounding factor of that is that more of us are online because we're not able to work, and that's a confounding factor that increases how many of us are in these groups. You have to think about that. Um, yeah. I mean, you have no idea how many people I run into with this. And it's like, how miserable you can feel. You just feel like, you just wish someone would just shoot you because you're just so miserable. And you can't do the things you used to do. And it's so frustrating. And you have to find a way to adapt and still do things you love as much as you can, or find new things to do that you can do. Now, my gardening, I can't garden hard and heavy like I used to. And Scott Harrison, don't make a dirty joke out of that. Although I'm sure you will. But my daughter does the heavy work, and this is that garden that Dana, my daughter, and I manifested. We wanted a garden, and we got one. She needed some people to help her, and we needed a place to garden. And it was like miraculous, just miraculous. And but I can't do the heavy work I used to be able to do. But I've been able to do more, but I'm able to impart what knowledge I have because I have a lot of knowledge about gardening. And I can advise them as to what to plant where and what companion to plant with it and stuff. Yeah. Well, the funny thing, I thought fibro was an autoimmune disease, and it's not. It's that hyper nerve activity disease syndrome where the nerves keep sending signals of pain when there's no reason for the pain. So I thought it was an autoimmune disease too, like arthritis, but it's not. I don't have any trouble with my joints. It's all muscular. It's like, my joints are fine. I don't have any, other than natural wear and tear arthritis in the knees and the neck, that's just normal. I don't have any of that too. And they've been treating me like I have fibro for the last 5 years, but they just didn't call it that. I think they knew what I had. But I had to demand a diagnosis in order to get one, which I think is typical of the medical people. They don't want to tell you anything because, you're eligible for disability and stuff like that if they give you an actual diagnosis, which I might be able to get some help with medications and medical help and perhaps even some disability going on, because I was going to take my test for OTA and I got off the tramadol and I was totally non-functional. I could not possibly take that test or work. So, my hopes of doing that totally dashed. And it's like the depression that followed was like, I felt so helpless and hopeless and worthless, and it was a terrible thing. But my rheumatologist says self-care was a huge part of feeling better with fibro. Taking care of yourself, doing those things that do help you feel better, whether it's soaking in Epsom salt baths or reading, or make sure your nighttime hygiene is good where you don't do anything that's going to be too excitable right before bed. Avoid the blue light, have blue light blockers, read before bed, things like this. Have friends to talk to is important, people to relate to. This kind of self-care is very important for all of us, regardless of whether Mandela affected or not, whether you're just a person who's curious. But I mean, so many of us are dealing with depression. It's not unusual for someone to come into my room and say they just feel so worthless. They're trying to be good. And it's like, you probably are good. You got to listen to your heart, not to your culture, because our culture is really brutal, telling us what is good and what is bad, and it's all ass backwards. It really is. Magnesium, yeah. I put this big magnesium pill in my water. There's no flavor to it. So I just put it in a big one in my water because I can't swallow the pills and I don't like grinding them up. So I just drop them in and then they dissolve over the day. Magnesium, and I was low in potassium, so I take potassium, and I take vitamin D because I was tested low in that. People get misdiagnosed with fibro when they actually have Lyme. Yeah. And if you have both, God help you. I know you suffer so much, Balo. That just sucks. Yeah, I think that how I live my life is that I try to be kind and honest, but I do have a bit of a wicked sense of humor, I'll be honest with you, and sometimes I'm naughty. Just ask Scott. I can give and take with the best of the Brits with humor sometimes. I have my days. But I never do anything out of meanness, and it's really hard for me to do that because I don't like I've been treated meanly by people before, bullied as a child and stuff. And it's like, no, I don't want to repeat that cycle with other people. You do what you want, but I'm just saying I don't need more negative karma. But you be who you are, and that's okay with me. I don't expect everyone to be perfect, nor myself. And there'll be days when I'm probably snarky and a little nasty myself. But I try. I think if you're trying, that's the important thing. That I hate bringing up religion, but sometimes religions have a tendency to tell you that you're really bad so that you'll go to church. And I think they're not really being honest with you, because I don't think, I think you can be a perfectly good person and be an atheist. I have sons that are atheists, and they're more moral and more kind and more generous to those who are in need than most people. So, that's not the churches will tell you that the atheists are real evil people and they worship the devil. I said, no, they're atheists. They don't worship anything. They just believe that it's their responsibility to be a good person and that they can't fall back on someone to forgive them. They have to make sure they live their life appropriately. Will they always be atheists? I don't know. I don't worry about it. We'll all figure it out eventually, I suppose. I think the important thing is you live your authentic self, and you share your authentic self, which is the best part. So as we go through these shifts and we have all this fun stuff happen to us, we have to find some kind of stability. And hopefully we have friends shifting with us, so we're not completely alone. And next time you see a UFO, write it down. Yeah, multi-generational Satanists consider themselves atheists. Now, they're different than the Luciferians, aren't they? Trying to keep it all straight. Regardless of what they are, it's a man-made belief, really. Anyway, I was going back to UFOs. I remember one summer I kept seeing them in the sky, and they would just blink out. They were just little metallic things. They weren't planes. They'd be flying through the air, and then they just wink out. If the funny thing is, if you tell yourself, I want to see UFOs, you'll see UFOs. So that's why I wonder how much is our manifesting. Are we the travelers through timelines manifesting things as we go through? Are we the catalyst to manifesting things? So are we supposed to watch what we think and what we wish for? I have to, because you've heard my manifesting stories where I better make sure I wish for good things for good reasons, just because they seem to happen. So it's kind of trained me to try to be more positive thinking. It doesn't always work, but I try, you know. Yeah, you see, you have these groups of people that do this and do that and do this and do that, and I think that's man's delusions, really. Now, do I think that they can conjure up something evil? Sure, sure they can. There's places in Wales, for example, in Cornwall, where a lot of rather negative worshiping happened. And there's some really dark stuff in some of those places because I believe not only can you manifest from spirit to physical, like events and things, you can manifest from physical into spirit and create some negative spiritual entity like they did with that college ghost that they conjured up, that they created a backstory for, and the psychics read what this spirit was telling them was the same story, and they didn't know anything about it. So we can create from physical to spirit, and we could create good things or bad things. And these people that do these ceremonies and stuff, they could be doing tremendous harm to the fabric of the spiritual realm and creating terrible monsters. I think human beings are the monsters, to tell you the truth. The capability of evil that human beings have is just unbelievable. And I don't think necessarily anyone's making them do this. I just think it's just it's a potential that we have. We have like the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other, maybe. I don't know. I just know that I'm never going to get involved with anybody that does anything negative or evil or anything like that. Because I don't need that kind of energy around me because I'm a sensitive person. And if you're an empath of any kind, like I think Belo is, and many of you are, where you really feel negative energies from people that are negative and positive, and in places too, you'll feel negative energies in a place or a positive, uplifting energy in another. You're an empathic person, and I think most of us are. And we're compassionate, and this each world we shift into seems to be less empathetic and less compassionate, and it's really, really hard on us because it's like we don't want to associate with these people because they're just so bad, and it's just disappointing because you just think, why would anybody want to do that? Why? Well, anyway, on a happier note, is there anything you'd like to? Oh, Belo, what you're suffering from is your give a damn is busted. That's all. Because when you go through so much, like you've been through, it's overwhelming. And I wouldn't say you were evil. I'd say you were mischievous. You're mischievous. You have a mischievous little soul there. And I think everyone likes that about you. Except for people that you don't like. They probably don't like that about you. I don't think you're evil at all, Belo. Well, I don't know. Well, that's because you're sensitive, Belo. People that are sensitive, everything that happens to you affects you more. It affects you more. Is there anything you guys like to talk about next week? Any topics? Because I have numerous topics I could talk about, but I'd like to talk about something that would interest you in particular. I was looking at my different streams I've done on the topics and all the experiences I've had, and it's like, man, I'm a really strange person. I never really looked at all the stuff that I've experienced in one lump. And it's like, wow, I'm strange. I'm a weird person. Yet I know a lot of you have had just as many. And maybe we're not the weird people. The people that don't have these experiences are the weird people. They're the NPCs, the ones that aren't real, you know. QHHT. Yeah, that'd be cool. You want to do like a hangouts on my stream or with you? I haven't done a hangout stream yet. It's a kind of hypnosis. I think that's what the gal had done with me. She didn't call it that, or else she did, and I didn't pay attention. I had my past life thing. I put the link to the gal that does the videos on my last stream. I posted the page, the YouTube page. So yeah, you have to enjoy the really causing trouble to innocents, to be evil. If you cause trouble to someone who's been a really asshole, that's a little different than if you're just attacking innocent. Oh, I think that's they put the headphones on and they have the beats that sync up your brain. Okay, well, we might do that. That'd be kind of fun because there's not that many that come in here at that time. And do those get recorded? They don't get recorded though, do they? Well, we could do like a Hangouts thing on a different day because this is usually my uh, live stream. So we'll do a Hangout some other day, maybe an evening or something, and have a chat about hypnosis and stuff. And I'll try to do some more research on that. Hangouts doesn't, I don't think they save it. I don't think you can save it. It does it? Okay. I don't know how to do that. I'll have to talk to you later. I don't know how to stream. Hangouts the option to stream live. And it records it too. Oh yeah, that's right, because I've seen that. Do I have to have, I wonder if I have to have a certain number of subs to do that. Oh. I'll have to look that up because I'm sure there's a video on it. Okay. Then we'll see. I'll see if we can do that next week, and we'll talk about hypnosis and some other things, and you guys can speak up. Well, I guess we're done, and I'll look into that Hangouts for next week. That's a good idea, and hopefully you'll feel better, and Scott will feel better, and all that jazz. And happy Easter, a wonderful pagan holiday. Of the chicks and the eggs, and all that stuff. And interesting how we've combined it with religious symbology as well. Okay, you all. Ishtars, yeah. You take care. It was nice to have you here, and thank you for listening to my rambling. And good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, I guess. Take care. Bye-bye.